Hello listeners, I'm Major General Nilendra Kumar for the YouTube channel Lex Consilium Foundation, and here I'm reading to you from the book Tata Stories 40 Timeless Tales to Inspire You, authored by Harish Bhat. Now this book has been brought out by the Penguin Random House. The edition is of 2021 and the book is available at all the leading bookshops and can also be ordered online. I read to you from chapter 37 titled Never Stop Dreaming. The text says, Jamsetji Tata, founder of the Tata Group, is known for establishing very successful, pioneering business ventures that have gone on to shape Indian industry. But did you know that the tale of his life is also the story of a man who never ever stopped dreaming? During the first 3 decades after founding the Tata Group in 1868, Jamshetji had already established very successful textile mills, Empress Mills in Nagpur, Swadeshi Mills in Mumbai, and Advanced Mills in Ahmedabad. He had conceptualized India's first integrated steel plant in Jamshedpur, which would bloom into Tata Steel. He had planned the country's most ambitious hydroelectric power plant at Valwan on the Western Ghats and had begun working towards establishing the fabulous Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai. He had even embarked on creating India's first full-fledged science research university, the Indian Institute of Science at Bangalore, and launched the country's first scholarship for higher education overseas for Indians. Put together, these pioneering and ambitious ventures make for the story of a complete and fulfilling life. Surely, their planning and execution must have kept Jamsetji Tata substantially preoccupied. Indeed, one of his early biographers wrote, had he no other title to recognition, his conduct of the mills would suffice. But all this did not stop him from dreaming about many other possibilities for his beloved nation. One of his most imaginative projects centered on creating adequate cold storage for the city of Mumbai. He wanted to increase the food supply and prevent constant shortages in the period immediately after the devastating bubonic plague of 1890s by setting up a cold storage plant for fruits and fish. Therefore, around 1900, he began drawing up plans for a huge building to be constructed on the land that is now occupied by the Chhatrapati Shivaji Vastu Sangrahalaya, earlier called the Prince of Wales Museum. This was to be a circular building surrounding a huge house office where the manufacture of artificial ice would cool the entire structure. The external perimeter of the building would contain offices that could be leased out or even rooms for concerts, all of which would be suitably air-conditioned by the central ice house. Jamsetji's dream was evidently ahead of its time, and this project would not come to fruition in his lifetime. It would take another 20 years before his dream was realized, albeit in a different format, when the iconic Crawford Market in Mumbai became equipped with adequate cold storage and refrigerators. Another dream that Jamsetji pursued with passion was the establishment of India's own shipping line. He believed that a country which depends on the ships of another nation faces a permanent disadvantage. He also resented the exorbitant charges on the transport of Indian cotton yarn levied by the British-owned Peninsular and Oriental P&O line, which held a monopoly on shipping out of India in those days. So he traveled to Japan, and after reaching an agreement with the well-established Nippon Yusen Kaisha NYK line, he established the Tata line, for which he bought 2 ships, Annie Barrow and Lindsay Fane, which would carry Indian cotton goods and yarn alongside the Japanese ships of NYK at reasonably freight charges. The Indian media commended the courage of Jamsetji in trying to break a huge monopoly. Soon, however, the P&O line, which was subsidized by the revenue and taxpayers of India, decided to safeguard their monopoly and ruthlessly crush all competition by reducing rates to hugely unviable levels. They even made the unusual offer of carrying Indian cotton to Japan free of charge if shippers signed suitable declaration with them. Jamsetji Tata took up this matter strongly and repeatedly with the Secretary of State for India in the British government, but to no avail. The cotton mills of Mumbai gradually withdrew their contracts from the Tata line. So the two ships were sent back to England and the relatively small Tata line shut down. However, the venture did help Japan's NYK get an initial foothold in the Indian market, which eventually created some degree of competition to the benefits of Indian manufacturers and merchants. This reversal did not stop Jamshetji from pursuing other equally ambitious dreams. At Bangalore, he created a silk farm to implement in India many of the scientific principles of sericulture, which he had seen in Japan, and therefore he also created the required skill sets in the country. The Tata silk farm was quite a successful venture. While the farm no longer exists, back then it provided the impetus for the revival of the local silk industry. Some of the giants of Indian sericulture, such as Appadurai Mudaliar and Lakshman Rao, were amongst the Tata silk farm's first trainees. Many years later, in 1949, the Central Silk Board was also established in Bangalore. Yet another dream was the desire to encourage the growth of Egyptian cotton in India. Here, the intent of Jamshetji Tata's mind was to help Indian mills spin yarns of finer counts, for which Egyptian cotton was eminently suitable. He studied this subject in detail and was concerned that countries like Germany, Austria, Belgium and England were flooding the Indian market with their manufactured cotton goods. Therefore, in a rallying cry, he implored all Indians to save India's young and only industry from utter destruction. He passionately argued if India were enabled to grow for itself the long stapled varieties, she would derive immense benefit in three different directions. Such an expansion would assist agriculture, conserve the money of the country, and improve the exchange. Experiments to grow Egyptian cotton in India began in right earnest. In some districts in the central provinces, these ventures achieved success, whereas in many other places they failed. This was already the twilight of Jamshetji Tata's life. He was deeply immersed in his steel, hydroelectric, hotel and science education ventures, and he eventually concluded that from a cost-benefit standpoint, it would not be advisable to give further attention to this project. Jamshetji's capacity to dream remained with him until the very end. The last days of his life were spent in Europe, consulting expert doctors. Although still robust in spirit, his heart had grown weak and he suffered from sleeplessness and immense breathing difficulties. So, in San Remo, Italy, on an occasional good day, he would go to the marketplace and buy fresh fruits, something he loved eating. There he began to dream of cultivating dates and other Mediterranean fruits in India, given their nutritious content. A few days later, he passed away, warmly ensconced in the love of his family. We do not know what his final dream was, but there can be no doubt that it must have been a dream that brought alive his deep love for India, the nation that he worked for and championed throughout his life. Never stop dreaming. Dreams are the visions that help unfold and enrich our lives. Despite having created such pioneering and successful businesses, and notwithstanding many challenges and a few failures too, Jamshetji Tata never stopped dreaming throughout his life. Why should we? Thank you.